Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Avatar, Don't Go in the Forest, out October 31st on 30 Tigers. The album has 10 tracks, 47 minutes in length, and this is the band's 10th full-length studio album. They are a Swedish metal band. When it comes to the design of this record, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised with how dynamic and how fluid the album is. It's an album that on one hand feels very cohesive because it has a sense of heaviness that's very common throughout every single song on this album, and it also has a sense of darkness that really permeates throughout the entire record, not just in the lyrical content but also in the sound. So those two elements definitely create a sense of gelling between all of these 10 different songs, but at the same time all of them are allowed to move in different directions and are allowed to express themselves different from one another. And that's where the versatility of the band really comes through and really shines, making the overall album experience feel a lot like a movie. Everything is a scene, everything is a piece of the puzzle, but you're going to go through different momentums, different parts of that puzzle as you navigate through it. This album kind of plays itself like a movie script, and I really like that aspect of it because, like I said, it allows it to be cohesive, part of a bigger picture, but still really focus on the individuality of each and every single song. As far as the sound is concerned, this album has incredible production. Nothing new by Avatar. They always create really well-rounded sounding albums. They know how to make a great sound, and they know how to present that sound to the listener. This album sounds massive, considering how dark it is and how consistently heavy it is. Two elements that tend to normally ground the overall sound of any record, and sometimes even narrow that sound and force it a little bit to be contained. This record is nothing like that. It's not contained. It doesn't feel restricted. It just feels like the sound moves, and it moves really well, and there's no borders to it. You can hear all of the different elements, either be the drums, the bass, the guitars. Everything has its own space, its own room to breathe, and they all come together in perfect harmony because there's no density in the sound, so you don't have one element running over the other. You just have everything kind of working in parallel in order to create the best overall sound experience possible. And if you go back at what I said about the overall album design feeling like a movie script, the sound on this record really comes across as a movie score in terms of being the soundtrack to something that you would be watching, and what you would be watching is the reflection of the lyrical content, the themes of the songs, and the overall atmosphere that this record provides. Now, when you look deeper into the sound, I want to talk about the bass, because I thought the bass on this record was phenomenal. It really added a lot to the way not just the sound comes across, but the atmosphere of the album becomes better defined. That sense of darkness that this record carries in a lot of ways is put forward by how the bass comes across. The bass is not just adding darkness to the way the songs are presented, it's also adding this sense of ominous, this sense of eeriness to the way the sound comes across. And I think that's an important aspect considering the lyrical content, the themes, the overall drive of this record. That bass plays a key role in setting that tone on every single song, regardless of how heavy the track is or how light the track is in terms of not having as much of a heavier drive. So the bass is really consistent from that standpoint, not necessarily consistent in how it comes across, but consistent in what it's delivering. The guitars on the album are rich, are well textured. It's a great guitar sounding album. It really pushes the boundaries of the record, and a lot of the size of this album is really stretched to the limit because of that guitar sound and how rich and how textured it is. It's heavy, yes, but it's not always heavy. It's also melodic. It's also groovy at times. And then when you add other elements, like electronic elements, for example, into the overall sound, you just add so much more, so many more layers to the overall experience that allows the guitars to feel a little bit more free, a little bit more loose, a little bit more organic. So great quality on the guitar sound, great quality of execution, really elevating this album tremendously. Now the drums really help shape the album, and it really help with the overall size as well. They're not overpowering. Nothing on this record feels overpowering. Everything feels like it has space to breathe, space to maneuver without getting on top of one another, and the drums are no different. They're heavy when they need to be, but I never felt like this album really needed the drums to go over the top in order to add even more heaviness to the sound. The themes are already heavy, the way the vocals come across are already heavy, the guitars are already heavy, the drums just need to be there to emphasize those nuances, those momentums, and not necessarily bulldoze over them, which is exactly what happens on this album, just emphasizing it, not running it over. Once you get down to the vocals, I enjoyed the vocal performance on this album tremendously because I felt like there were a lot of different ideas, there were a lot of different approaches to what the lyrical content was all about. Sometimes a little bit more like a narrator style approach, sometimes a little bit more like in the first person. There's a little bit of everything for everybody as far as what you can do from a vocal standpoint without changing too much, with still staying within the Avatar experience, but also connecting to the songs, to the theme of the songs, and what do you want to express with them. And I felt like the vocal performance on this album found that perfect spot on every single song. Either with the clean vocals, either with the harsh vocals, using backing vocals, creating sometimes a little bit of an anthem, bringing some live experience into the vocal performance, which I think is going to do wonders for some of these songs once it comes to performing them live, because having that already built into the DNA of the song just allows the transition into the live setting 1,000 times easier. So great vocal performance throughout, and it was just really the cherry on top of this cake. A cake that I feel like represents the album well, and the album represents the discography of the band. You're gonna find elements on this record from the previous 9 records. It's almost like they took the best that they have done before, sound-wise, even lyrically and vocally, and brought it all together into one single record and allow that album to still be Avatar, be a little bit of old, be a little bit of new, be a little bit of what the future can be. This record for me is my favorite Avatar album since Feathers and Flesh. I can't put this album under any other record that was released since that one. That one is still my favorite Avatar album, but this one to me is just one of the top ones. I think you can have it in the discussion as one of the best Avatar albums ever. I just find the consistency, the quality, the delivery, the darkness, the heaviness. I can't remember an album where all of these pieces of the puzzle came together as good as it did on this album, as organically as it did on this album. As far as favorite songs are concerned, this one is a no-brainer. Don't Go in the Forest, the title track. I'm surprised that this song hasn't been released as an early single, because this is by far my favorite track on the record, and I think it's going to be a lot of people's favorite track on the record. It has a great bass sound that opens up the song, and I think this song really allows you to see not only the quality of the bass on this record, but also the impact that it has in that ominous, in that eeriness, in that overall darkness. Definitely adding a sinister vibe to this track, and it needs it, considering what the theme and what the lyrics are all about. The chorus is super hooky, super catchy, very melodic, very open, a complete 180 from where the verses were, and I love the backing vocals in the chorus, adding that live experience. I think this is a song that they have to perform live, or I hope they perform live, because vocally it's a track that would work really well in that setting, sonically as well. The chorus is just absolutely excellent. It's just a great track with a great chorus, with a great theme. I mean, who hasn't watched a horror movie and heard a noise in the forest and you're telling the person, don't go there, and then the actor goes in there, because obviously that's the movie. This song kind of plays into that perfectly. It has that nail down. I just absolutely love it. The verses are definitely darker, definitely more contained. There's a little bit of bass, a little bit of electronic elements, sprinkle in some heaviness of the guitars, but it just feels like so ominous, like the verses are just so ominous, and then the chorus is the realization of that feeling, of that experience. It's like the big aha moment that just completely blows you away. Great track, great structure, great design. Then you have a song like Abduction Song, heavy track. This song really underlines the darkness, really underlines the song, and it's a track that showcases how that darkness can be an impactful element without necessarily going over top. The vocals definitely add to the overall heaviness of the track. The track already has heaviness in the sound. The vocals just define it a little bit better, specifically the harsh vocals. The clean vocals with some layers in it bring in that sense of eeriness to the song, and it really creates the necessary vocal ebbs and flows to give this track the movement that it needs. It has a great chorus, once again, a chorus that really matches that sinister vibe with a clean vocal delivery, emphasizing it even more. It just has great music behind it to create that score-like experience and creating an overall Avatar style sounding song with a great chorus, a great verses, but the chorus really developing the climax of the story and presenting it in a new light. Last but definitely not least, Dead and Gone and Back Again. The verses are definitely calmer. This is a song that simmers, and the verses allow you to feel like it's simmering, it's building towards something. Once again, always with that sinister atmosphere, that sinister vibe in the way. And then the chorus opens up both musically and vocally. But it's the calmness of the verses that really set up the vibe of the chorus. I have no doubt about that. The way that works out, really the one helps define the other. I don't think you can have one without the other. It's just that one really allows you to feel like the water's starting to boil, and then when you get to the chorus, it just boils over. That's kind of the synopsis of how this track works from a musical, but also from a vocal perspective. A track that also has great bass sound all around, and the fact that it simmers in the verses allows that bass to be more noticeable. It allows that bass to be more impactful. The chorus really lets it all out, but the verses is where this song is at, because it's what sets up the complete dynamic of the track from a vocal standpoint, from a lyrical standpoint, and from a musical standpoint. This is it, Avatar, Don't Go in the Forest. Once again, out October 31st on 30 Tigers. Hit me up in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on the singles. I'll see you all at the next video. Take care, guys.